Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Brandon Bias from cheatedchicken.com here with a Photoshop intermediate tutorial. Before I get into the actual tutorial, I want to give you guys a little bit of good news that's been going on over here. First of all, Eli got a new MacBook Pro, and that's really convenient because since he's got his MacBook for school and home use, that means I get the Beastly computer over here at home. The Beastly computer is the computer that we've been using for tutorials, making videos, and recording with cinema, stuff like that. But yeah, I've got it over here. So now whenever I'm not busy, I can sit down, make you guys a tutorial, and get stuff done, because I know you guys love our tutorials and you're always wanting more, and now I can actually make that happen a lot easier. And in addition to me getting the Beast, I've actually got a dual monitor setup. I'll just give you a little picture of that. And as you can see, I've got two monitors now, and this little green outline that you can probably see shows which monitor I'm actually going to be recording on. And then over here is going to be a bunch of stuff that I'm going to have off to the side, like files and pictures. And as you can see, here's my little record button for Camtasia, so I can actually record the screen. And this is actually really nice because it'll keep everything kind of clean while I'm recording, but then again, I'll also have everything that I need to use off to this side that you don't really need to see. So that's going to be really convenient when it comes to making these tutorials. Alright, so another piece of good information, if you go to our Facebook page and check out our photos, we'll go to this Photoshop Pics album right here. This is where we're going to start posting pictures of potential tutorials and just, random crap that we want to do. So the most recent thing I put up is this Sahara Crystallic featuring Tyler Clark image, something that we made for our friend Tyler Clark. And then you've got this image here, which is something that I like to call the 7-star. And that's actually what we're going to be working on today. The reason that I call it the 7-star is because it's got 7 points, and it's duplicated inward 7 times, and flipped and stuff like that to make it look interesting. So I'm sure you guys would like to get into this tutorial, so let's go ahead and bring up Photoshop. Once you've got Photoshop open, go ahead and start up your new document. Like usual, I'm going to stick with my 1280 by 720 with a 72 resolution, and we'll hit OK. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and make sure we've got our default black and white colors down here, and we'll fill in this layer 1 right here with Alt Backspace, or it's Option Delete on a Mac computer. And once you've got your black background, we're just going to go ahead and rename this black just so we know what the heck we're looking at. And we're going to go down here to the polygon tool. Just go ahead and click and hold right below this little arrow, and you can get this little submenu. And go up here and make sure that you are set to the shape layers rather than paths. And make sure you're set to 3 sides. And you can go ahead and click this and change that to a white color if you want. But I'm just going to go down here to the bottom left hand corner and swap my foreground and background, and then that'll automatically change my color to white. So once you've got your 3 sides and your white foreground color, go ahead and click and drag while holding shift. Actually no, we're not going to bother holding shift because that doesn't make a flat triangle. So just make a decent sized triangle, making sure that the bottom line right there is pretty flat. And we'll grab our move tool and just kind of position it over here a ways. And if you think your triangle's a little bit too big or too small, just go ahead and hit Control T if you're on a PC or Command T if you're on a Mac, and click and drag one of these corners while holding Shift and Alt or Option if you want to keep it centered. And that should be a pretty good size right there. So we'll hit the check mark up here to make sure we confirm our transform. Alright, so like I said earlier, this is going to have 7 points to it, so we're going to need to do a little bit of math. Go ahead and bring up your calculator, or you can just let me do this for you. So if you've ever taken geometry or anything like that, you should know that there are 360 degrees in a full turn. But we want to have 7 points, so we're going to have to divide this by 7 to figure out how much we want to turn each point. And this is 51.428 degrees or so, something along those lines. I'll probably round that up to 51.429. I'll just put this off to my second screen so I can take a look at that later. So I'm going to move this, there we go, move that right there. And I'm going to duplicate it with Control J on my PC or Command J if you're on a Mac. And I'm going to bring up the transform tool with Control T or Command T. And so up here next to this little triangle, go ahead and put in that 51.429. And we're going to go ahead and highlight all this and copy it to our clipboard with Control C or Command C. And we'll just check mark it and we'll move that over here. It doesn't really matter where you put it for the time being. And so you're pretty much going to do the same thing until you've got 7 of these points. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Okay, so this looks a little bit sloppy, obviously, just because I just kind of moved it around here and there just so I can get the general idea of where everything's going to go. But I'm going to just go ahead and start moving these to the spots where they should be. I'm going to line up the points and all that stuff, kind of zoom in, get a general idea of where this is actually supposed to go. So just go ahead and match up your points so that they all match up just fine. Okay, so now that we've got all of our points matched up, we can go ahead and make sure we've got our top layer selected and shift click to the bottom one, and we're just going to go ahead and group all these together with Control G. And I'm just going to call this star, something like that. And then I'm going to hit Control T while having the entire group selected, and I'm going to click and drag on one of these corners while holding shift so that it keeps its uniform size and all that stuff. And I'm just going to make this fit so that's not going too far outside the edges or anything like that. And I'll check mark it when I'm done. And I'm going to go ahead and center this on the canvas. So in order to do that, I'm going to hit Control A to select the entire canvas, or Command A if you're on a Mac. And with our Move tool selected, go up here and click on this icon right here to center it vertically, and click on this icon here to center it horizontally. And that'll just make sure it's centered on our canvas just fine. So to get rid of our selection, we'll just hit Control D or Command D if you're on a Mac. And what we're going to do is go to this star and right click it, and we're going to duplicate the group. And the name we're going to call it is Merged. So go ahead and click the eye next to star to turn it off, and right click on the word merged and click Merged Group. So that's kind of why we called it merged, if you didn't figure that out. So what we're going to go ahead and do with this merged layer is we're going to duplicate it with Control J or Command J, and bring up the transform tool with Control T or Command T. And we're just going to size it down, maybe about right there. You know, just a good size. Looks like around 75 to 80% would be a good size to size down to. And remember, when you're clicking on one of these handles right here, just hold Alt and Shift so that you get it to be uniform while you're, uniform and centered while you're resizing. There we go. And we're not done here. Actually, we have to right click inside this box and go ahead and flip vertical. And this is obviously not centered, so we're going to use our down arrow key to just move this down a little bit so it looks like it's in the right spot. And I'm actually going to size this down just a little bit more and click the check mark or hit enter to confirm that. And what you're going to do is just go ahead and duplicate this again and bring up the transform tool, Control T, flip it vertically, size it down, and move it. And you're going to do this until you have 7 copies of your star going inwards like so. So I'm just going to go ahead and take care of that. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you were able to successfully make 7 duplicates of your star and size them down to get this interesting little star looking shape. And I'm going to go ahead and select all of these layers right here and merge them together with Control E. I'm just going to change the layer name back to merged, backspace that up. And now what's next is to go ahead and bring in a texture that you like. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in this texture from Video Copilot's Riot Gear collection. It's a DVD that you can get from videocopilot.net if you feel like purchasing any of these textures or anything like that. If not, just go to Google. So I'm going to click and drag this up to the tab and bring it on back down here. I'm going to click and drag this layer below the word star right there. And I'm going to rename this layer to BG for background. And I'm going to zoom out with my scroll wheel because I enabled that in my options. I'm going to bring up the transform tool and go ahead and size down my texture till it fits the canvas a little bit better. And I'll zoom back in with Control 0 so that it all fits, and check mark it. And that's actually looking pretty good right there. So what's next is to go ahead and make this white star into a part of the background. And the way we're going to do that is go up to our merged layer right here, and if you hold Control over the thumbnail, you should see a hand with a little box on it. If you're on a Mac, you're going to have to use the Command key. So give that a click and everything will start shimmering over here, showing that your star was selected. Just go back to the BG and duplicate it. I'll just call this star. And we'll turn off the merged right here. And if you guys didn't catch that, I duplicated from the background by hitting Control J or Command J. Sorry if I didn't mention that or whatever. So with the star layer selected, we're going to bring up the levels dialog by hitting Control L on my PC or Command L if you're on a Mac. And you're just going to bring in the black level right here. I'm actually going to move that off to the side so I can see what's going on as I bring in the black slider. And I'm going to bring this up to about 117 because you've got quite a bit of darks, but then again you see the occasional texture here and there. And so we'll hit OK. And that's actually all there is to it. But if you want to go ahead and add in that vignette, that's up to you. I'll go ahead and show you the new way that I've come up with to make vignettes. Go ahead and make a new layer. We'll call it Vin for vignette. And bring up your rulers by hitting Control R or Command R. And I'm going to click and drag from up here to the center of the canvas, which is apparently right there because the ruler snapped. I'm going to click and drag from here until it snaps to the center. And so now I'm going to go ahead and fill in this vignette layer with black by hitting Control Backspace or Command Delete, I believe it is on a Mac, because I've got black as my background color in the bottom left hand corner there. So what I'm going to do, now that I've got my rulers in the center and I've got my black background right here, you know what, now that I think about it, I could have just dragged that up, couldn't I? Whatever, no big deal. In any case, go ahead and go to your elliptical marquee tool and set up the feather to maybe 100 pixels. If you're on a bigger or smaller canvas, you can go ahead and change that accordingly. And go ahead and drag from the middle right here while holding Alt. And I was going to say Shift, but that would just make a perfect circle, so screw the Shift key. And I'm going to make the left and right sides almost meet up with the sides of the canvas, but the top I'm actually going to go above and beyond so that it goes to a place where we actually can't see. And if you let go, that'll make a nice feathered selection right there. So making sure you've got the vignette layer selected, go ahead and click on the create a new mask icon. And I'm going to hit Control H to hide up those rulers right there. And this is wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and invert my little thumbnail right here by hitting Control I or Command I. And I'm just going to go ahead and lower the opacity of this layer to 10%. And then I'm going to duplicate it, put it back up to 100%, and change the blend mode to soft light. And the reason I decided to start doing it like this is because it still has that look of a vignette, but you can still see the texture through it. It just looks like it's getting darker, not like just overwhelmed by black edges or anything like that. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys were able to learn something new from this. And if you have any questions, go ahead and email me or something like that. And we will see you next time.